Hello, and welcome to my first ever game review on this channel. On this review, we will be going over the latest playthrough on the channel, Psychonauts 2. We will be breaking this game review into a couple parts, mostly character, story, and levels. There will be spoilers of the game and the other games too, so if you haven't played any of those games yet, you have been warned and I implore you to play those games. Also, every ranking I do is my own personal opinion, and other people can think of the game differently, and that's okay. I will already say that I like this game deeply, as I, and along with countless other people, have waited 15 years for this game. But with all that out of the way, let's get this review rolling with.
Oh, you think the human mind is safe?
Alright guys, we cannot talk about the story without first introducing the characters we will be spending most of our time with. The characters of Psychonauts 2 will be the longest in this review and can be really summarized into 3 parts. You meet the OG members of the Psychonauts, Raz's family, and the interns. You also get to spend some more time with the teachers in the first game, but they mostly just play in the background after the initial starter level. But let's tackle down the Psychonauts first, and more importantly, the Psychic Six. The first member of the Psychic Six that we're going to go over is Bob Sonato, who is a herbalist. He was dealing with a lot of loss, and as a result, resorted to drinking a lot of alcohol. He lost his mother when he was young, and he lost the love of his life during the Battle of Grulovia. He also got kicked out of the Psychonauts by his own nephew as a result of his drinking. And now we can never really separate these two, so I think the next member that we're going to go over to is the love of his life, Helmut Fullbear. When Helmut died in the Battle of Grulovia, his brain was lost in the brain vault that Raz kind of just stumbled upon. We plop that bad boy into a brainless Nick, and boom! Necromancy is now a thing that Psychonauts do. Helmut really likes music, and he tried to save his friend Lucretia, that was legitimately trying to kill them, by the way, by singing to her. He's kind of like the free spirit of the group, and he's pretty trippy. He's also voiced by Jack Black, and got his own song in the game, so that doesn't hurt the character either. Moving on to our third member, Captain Boley. He is the grandfather of my personal favorite campgoer, and everybody's should be, really, Dogen. He is like his grandson, and is dealing with an influx of voices since he can read the minds of animals, and can talk to them. He consistently needs reassurance when he does anything when we first meet up with him, perhaps because he doesn't really understand how his powers work, and as a result, in the first mind vault that we find in his mind, he blew up an entire shelter of dogs. He enjoys spending time with the next member, Cassiopeia. Cassie is a writer that tried to fight Maligula with words, which resulted in her writing a new archetype of Cassie to be bolder and harsher as a result of her failure. One thing that's interesting about Cassie is that she also shares some type of mental link with the wildlife, just like Count Compton. Honestly, I think these two have something going on, which is why I'm talking about them back to back like I did with the previous two. But she also wrote a book that Raz likes called Mind Swarm that outlined her days of doing shady business dealings. Next up of the Psychic Six is Otto Montalis, the tinker of the group, but he mostly just spends most of his time in his lab just tinkering away. He probably does some questionable things in the name of science, and I will never hate someone just trying to figure out stuff in the name of science. But I will question why somebody needs so many brains. Like seriously, why do you need that many brains? Last but not least, we have Ford Crawler. His craziness is still shown in this game like it was in the first one, and he's just as likable as before. His mind is still a bit shattered, and he still has his multiple characters. But Raz fixes his mind so he can think a lot better and gets a chance to really shine in this game. He is the leader and founder of the Psychic Six, and he was one of the best sidekicks until the Battle of Grulovia shattered his mind. And then we have two people that aren't part of the Psychic Six, but I want to mention them together here. First, you have Lucretia Mux, which probably has the worst life out of all the previous people. Yes, even Helmut, and he died. When Lucretia was in her homeland of Grulovia, she got twisted and tortured to be the hand of the evil dictator of her beloved homeland. She was ordered to drown innocents, protesting the dictator. She also fought her friends, killing not only Helmut, but also her sister, as a result of awakening the primal force inside of her, Maligula. Ford only managed to lock her evil alter ego for a little bit, as the primal force lies just below the surface. She is commonly known as Nona throughout the game as a result of Ford fixing her and Raz's family up. So she killed her sister to fill a vacant spot as her sister. That's pretty twisted, but Raz's family seems alright with it. But you may ask yourself, but who would do such a thing to a nice, calm woman like Lucretia? Well, look no further to my absolutely new favorite character, Nick, the mailroom guy.
TV?
Oh, sorry, I meant Gristel Malik, the Grusalovich of Grulovia. he has somehow managed to trick everyone into awakening Maligula from Nona, but his blatant snarkiness and disregard for everyone else makes this villain easily my favorite. It's just so nice to have a villain just be bad. I mean, I understand the situation of trying to grasp the good old times to get Maligula, but it just feels good to be a bad guy, you know what I mean? Moving on to the next part of characters is the interns. The interns in this game serve as the replacements of the campers in the first game, and quite honestly, most of them are kind of forgettable, just like the campers. I'm not gonna lie about it. The original had 20 campers, but this game only has 6 interns, so the pressure to make each one of them more memorable really takes its toll. Besides Sam and Norma, because I really hate Norma, I had to look up their names for the other 4 people. Sam is just hilarious, like she has her moments like this one.
Hey, who's your mentor? Mine's Nick Johnsmith.
Ooh, crummy. But not as crummy as mine. I got the coach.
Hey, someone mentioned my name?
We were just talking about how crummy it is that they don't properly fund your incredible death bot.
This kid gets me.
And she is also the sister of my favorite camper in the first game, Dogen. So I remembered her, but besides Sam, you have the sisters Lizzie and Norma, Adam, that kind of blends in with the background, but I always called him that dude with the yo-yos anyway. You have Morris, who is in the wheelchair, that only talks about his little radio station, that's trying to get the last intern, the girl that always has her skateboard, Gisu, to help him out. They try to make them Raz's peers, but you really don't interact with them at all after the first level. Sure, they have some side quests that they don't help you out with, but it's just sad to see that the interaction starts up so high that you just kind of forget about them. You don't even see them until the last level. Spoilers, I'm sorry. But like I said, none of them have like any real redeeming qualities that make them stand out. Sure, they all have their individual personalities, but none of them do anything to help out the game. Except maybe Norma, but that's because she rats you out, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like Norma. The last part of characters is Raz's family. Raz's family is in this game, and individually, they are pretty much like the interns. They're really forgettable. But, as a whole, they're actually quite good to get some drama in the story. You see, Raz's father spoke harshly against the sidekicks in the first game, but then shows up to the mother lobe in this game in support of Raz. So, the other members in his family aren't too open to sidekicks, and honestly, I don't blame them, as their parents weren't too happy with sidekicks not too long ago. Like, could you imagine hearing your parents talk harshly towards sidekicks for years, and then all of a sudden, they change on a dime? That will need some time to work out itself. But like I said, individually, they kind of are forgettable. But as a whole, and I can see why they need them for the story, as I will tell you in the next section of this video, but they all kind of are really forgettable. But with all that out of the way, now let's get to the rankings for the characters overall. Honestly, the good characters are really good, and there aren't that many real bad characters, but I will have to say that the characters in this game get 4 brains out of 5. Nick saved it a bit, but between the interns and Raz's family individually, I could not give it any higher than a 4. So that leaves the story next.
Awaken the Guardian of Grulovia and fulfill all of my hopes and dreams? You don't say.
Psychonauts 2 is the 3rd game in the Psychonauts series following the story of Rasputin Aquato's journey into the super secret psychic spy network, the Psychonauts. Try saying that 10 times fast. After our misadventures back at Whispering Rock Psychic Summer Camp in the first game, and getting back the leader of the Psychonauts in the Rampus of Ruin, we find ourselves interrogating the failed dentist, Dr. Lobato, and not too far after that, at the heel of the Psychonauts headquarters, the Mother Lobe. While interrogating Dr. Lobato, we learn that there's a spy in the Psychonauts that's trying to revive a really powerful psychic called Maligula, which has a specialization in hydrokinesis, the power to control water. The Psychonauts fought her 20 years ago at the Battle of Grulovia and got killed by Ford Crawler himself, so they're a little bit confused of necromancy, I guess. But when we first enter the Mother Lobe, we get our ranking in the Psychonauts. Intern.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
And as an intern, we have to have a mentor, and we got ourselves a mailroom guy, Nick. But after sorting out the mail, we found Nick brainless. we find a clue to go to a casino in the middle of the ocean. So we then had to use one of our new psychic powers, a mental connection, on one of our teacher's minds to allow a totally underage kids into a mission at a casino. Yeah, because that's totally legal, right? They're never going to get into any trouble with this. But after that side adventure, we find out that the Psychonauts leader was not really in a coma, but just pretending to be one to fly under the radar. He then tells us to get our old friend Ford Crawler back. So we just got ourselves some bacon from the cafeteria and somehow summoned Ford from our head. Like, seriously, how the hell did this happen? But his mind is fractured, and the story goes from finding them all to fixing Ford Crawler. So Raz eventually finds himself going through all the major players of the Psychonauts. The first either being Helmet or Compton, and then Ford. After we explore all three minds, we learn that they were all left a bit broken after their fallout in the Battle of Grulovia, especially Helmet. Helmet died, remember? Ford then tells us that he basically made a false reality for Maligula and implanted memories of Raz's family as her own. Ford couldn't bear to lose the love of his life, so he protected Lucy in the most colluded way possible. So the entire time Raz's grandma wasn't his grandma, but some evil psychic that killed a lot of people, including her own sister, Raz's real grandma, and his father's mother. But anyway, we need to get this big piece of technology working called the Asphalade, because that can push Maligula in the back of the head of Nona, where she kind of belongs, honestly. But oh no, bees and vines are our only weakness. If we can only use our fire powers, but the game doesn't allow you to do that, so we have to go out and help out the other two members of the Psychic Six, Cassiopeia and Bob Sonato. So after we help out Raz's idols, we find the main bad guy of the game, Nick.
TV?
The mailroom guy. This twist comes from left field, honestly, as Nick planned this entire thing out perfectly, to even plan out that Raz would somehow become one of the Psychonauts. He hired Dr. Lobato to move his brain into the head leader's head, thus leaving Nick's body without a brain and the body that we've used for a helmet. Nick is actually Gristel Malik, the leader of the nation of Grulovia, and he abused and twisted Lucy to use her powers to flood out his own people. He now aims to destroy the Psychonauts for everything that they took away from him. And with all that out of the way, that's pretty much the main story of Psychonauts 2. And honestly, this is way better than just trying to get badges at a summer camp and rebraining a couple of kids. Trying to stop an evil dictator who drowned his own people for not liking him, that's a pretty good villain right there, especially when he thinks that he didn't do anything wrong in the first place. So time for the score. The story flows pretty well, and thus I will give the story of Psychonauts 2 4.5 brains out of 5. I had to take that half away because, seriously, how the hell did we pull a fully grown man out of our ear? I mean, I guess crazier things have been done in Psychonauts, but honestly, I can't give it a 5, so that's it. So that just leaves one more thing, the levels, and the level design.
The Psychonauts. We're not here to change people's minds, Raz. Not here to fix people. We're here to help people fight their own demons. The ones they already have.
Psychonauts 2 levels can be broken down into two parts, mind levels and the open world. So let's talk about the open world first, and what makes us, the player, want to even explore the open world. In the original Psychonauts, we had collectibles, such as the side challenge markers and side cards, and that is especially true in Psychonauts 2 still. We collect these to increase our ranking. Each rank we get a rank point, and each rank point can be used to upgrade which abilities we want to upgrade first. We can actually pick and choose, unlike the first one, of which abilities we want to upgrade first. In addition to those, we also have the reoccurring scavenger hunt items,
Mission critical assets.
Homer would put it. These do not increase our ranking, but rather get the old garbs of Raz in the first game. A gentle nod to that. Two things that are different in the open world are keys and supply chests, where you first need to find the key to open up the chest, which only really contain the currency of the game, no longer arrowheads, but titanium. Just like in the first game, we also have characters interacting in the environment, and we can have a little chat with them. In Psychonauts 2, I feel like we have more interaction with the major and minor characters, especially after Raz manages to bring down Maligula at post-game. Like, you can actually talk to your father about what happened, and you get his feelings on the situation. Something missing in the first game, where you can never return at one point in the game. Each area in Psychonauts 2 is a lot bigger than those in the first game, and are more fleshed out in terms of general challenging platforming and problem solving. We have 4 open areas in Psychonauts 2, which are the Mother Lobe, the Quarry, the Questionable Area, and Green Noodle Gulch. Honestly, everything about the open world is just a big huge improvement on the first game. Now since we got the open world out of the way, we can talk about mind levels, and oh boy, if Psychonauts can do anything basically flawlessly, it's their mind levels. They are unique, as for every mind level isn't tied to the world as a whole, but rather to the individual and what they see in their own mind. That's why we can have levels like a water planet that has big bottles that act like doors to other places, and a version of a small world that I never knew I wanted in the same game. Whether you're trying to collect evidence in a port town or trying to win a cooking game, the mind levels gives us a lot of background about the characters that they are associated with. Not only does each level go deeper in depth into the characters that they are involved with, the levels also have a plethora of collectibles. As in the first Psychonauts game, each level has emotional baggage, figments, and memory vaults still. They traded out mental cobwebs for things called nuggets of wisdom, and Psychonauts 2 does not have any campers to help us out with our health situation, so they added these little fellows called half-a-minds, and if you collect 2 of them, you will get another level of mental energy. Enemies are far deadlier in this game than those of the first game. We got plenty of new enemy types to make combat feel more engaging and more fluid. We have regrets that carry the weight of our regret, doubts that are sluggishly attack us, but are durable but not to fire, bad ideas that throw their bad ideas at us just to blow up in our faces, judgment with his big hammer and he throws the book at us if we take it away, panic attack that goes way too fast for us to attack if we don't slow it down first, bad moods that can only be attacked when we use the clairvoyance ability on it, and my least favorite enemy of all time, the enablers, that cheer on their friends and they cannot die until these little guys die. Seriously, kill them all. Kill every single last enabler. Kill them all. With the mind levels already looking great, along with the new enemy types, Psychonauts 2 really hits it out of the park in terms of level design and gameplay. Like I never used clairvoyance before in Psychonauts, at least in combat, but in Psychonauts 2 they make you use every ability in combat, so it's just another tool at your disposal. With all that review of the levels, let's get on with the score. I'm going to give the levels of Psychonauts 2 a 5 out of 5 brains for the totally awesome levels they came up with and the creative ways they made combat feel more engaging. And that's the review. Overall, Psychonauts 2 is pretty good, as I got 13.5 out of 15 in this review. Now, like I said, this was just all my opinion, and other people could have their own. But I would implore anyone to play this game if they haven't already. Hell, play it again if you already did play it. But this has been my first ever game review on this channel. It took longer than I originally thought, but I did it, and I learned so much throughout this process, and I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. And if you think it was pretty good too, hit that like button for me. But this video is all over now, so I'll see you all next week. Until then, keep on gaming.